Hello guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Frank Macaluso and we are going to be doing the second to last episode of the E30 N54 behind me. Why is this the second to last episode and not the last one? Well, because we have a blue smoke issue and I am not going to be issuing a finale video on this, a finale video that I've worked very, very hard for on this swap with a blue smoke issue. I think that blue smoke is embarrassing. I think it shows that it's a lack of a completion of a swap and the lack of maintenance being done to the engine. So stay tuned in the second to last episode of the E30 N54 swap, where we assess where the oil is coming from, we take a couple of preventative maintenance measures, and we fix the problem. Then we can have a really good finale episode coming up not too long after this. Super excited to share this with you guys. Take a look and you don't want to miss it, huh? That's right, guys. We have a blue smoke issue, very prominent issue, very common on the N54 engines. Blue smoke is a phenomenon where oil gets into the combustion chamber or gets on the output of the turbos, where the turbos could possibly be leaking, and burns the smoke up and turns blue, and it turns out that goes out the tailpipe. So blue smoke comes from a number of different locations. One being the piston rings, means you have poor piston rings, failed piston rings, and it's allowing oil to come up from the low pressure side into the combustion chamber where it gets burned up. The second location is either the PCV valve or the valve cover itself, which has PCV built into the actual cover that allows the passages and the oil gas to escape. And the third major place is the turbos. The turbos themselves have seals inside of the spindles that go bad, and the oil that is used to lubricate those shafts they basically end up wearing away, and the oil gets onto the shaft, it spins the shaft, it burns through the oil, and then it goes out the exhaust. So those areas we're going to take a look at today. But first, let's demonstrate the issue. So all we need to do to recreate the issue is basically start the car, let it get up to operating temperature, and then we'll start to see the blue smoke out the back as we vary the RPM and vary the duty of the engine. Now we wait. You can already kind of see it coming out of the tailpipe there. Kind of just got it warmed up. Let's give it a little bit of gas here. There you go, see that? Yeah, that's bad. That's basically blue smoke. Didn't really take too much for me to get to that point and demonstrate this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look first at the PCV valve. We're gonna replace that and talk about the differences in the two PCV valves, one being stock and one being aftermarket. And let's do that right now. All right, what is a PCV valve? Well, it's this guy located right in here. It's called PCV, positive crankcase ventilation valve. And basically, it takes a 13 millimeters wrench to basically twist it off, and it pulls right out. You have to remove this fuel line with 14 millimeters on each side. Remove this entire fuel line first, and then crack this guy open. Then way you can rotate about this point, get it out of the way so you can pull it out. Now let's remove it and take a look at the old, which is the original, versus the new, and the characteristics of them to see if that could possibly be the root cause. All right, so here are the two PCV valves. The stock one is on my left and the VVT one is on my right. Sounds like it's pretty quality built. I'm pretty happy with the quality. Kind of got some RTV stuck in there, but I think that's probably the intent of the design. This feels like it has something kind of rattling inside of it, where this one kind of does too, but if I were to blow on these, let me show you. Let's blow on them. So if I were to blow on these and suck on them, I guess, right? Clean them up first. And that's important. I mean, I know I know you guys all want to see me suck on these valves, but it kind of does demonstrate the difference between the two in terms of functionality. So this is the stock one, right? So if I went, I could suck on it from this point. I can't blow. So let me see if I can try doing the same thing on the other side. If I suck really hard, there is still a little bit of air that kind of flows through. I can still get a little bit. Blow. It's good. Let's try the same thing on this one. If I blow, nothing. I can suck. So same so far. Let's try this one. Very little I can suck on this, and it blows just fine. So overall, I think that the functionality of these two are very, very similar, which doesn't make me feel good because it makes me think that they're both kind of very similar in terms of maybe this one isn't wearing like I thought. Maybe the valve is not the problem here in terms of, you know, oil ventilation being a problem. So anyway, regardless, I don't think that this is going to fix the problem because this seems to function very similarly to this one. But this is only 45 bucks and it's an upgraded version, and I know it was a common failure, so maybe there's something about it that I don't understand. I'll throw it in and then we'll start it up and see if the same problem exists. All right, let's try this again. Key. Start her up. All right, start it up nice. Let's wait just a minute or two for it to kind of warm up. It only took me about 45 seconds to replace that valve, but even already you can kind of see there's already smoke coming out of it. Let me try getting the more dramatic smoke that you'd expect. There you go. So as you can tell, the issue has not been fixed by replacing the PCV valve. Let's take a look at compression and numbers there that I had already gathered. Okay, so in terms of oil consumption coming from the engine internals themselves, you have two different opportunities for that to occur. First is the piston rings. If the oil is coming from the pan up through the bad leaky piston rings into the combustion chamber, it's going to burn up and turn into blue smoke on the exhaust. The second is the valve seals on the valve stems themselves. So if you have valve seals that are leaking, then the oil is going to come from the valve train and seep through those seals and get into the combustion chamber that way. So you're going to have to forgive me, but I had already done a compression test on all 6 cylinders, and this is what they said. When I had this engine procured, I had already done this just to make sure that the engine was good before I put it in the car. And out of all 6 cylinders, the compression numbers were 162, 160, 165, 163, 160, and 161. I also removed all 6 spark plugs to find that all 6 spark plugs were good. They were dry, they were consistently weared, they looked good. So I knew that the combustion chamber itself was good. So that kind of ruled out piston rings and valve seals. So having said all that, now I need to concentrate on, and I know it's not the PCV valve, it's 2 things. It's either the valve cover itself and all the little passages inside the mold that maybe be gunked up. And I've seen that before where somebody had actually dissected a valve cover to find that it was gunked up. Or the turbos. Now the turbos could be bad because the shafts on the turbos have seals on them internal to the turbos themselves, and when those seals start to wear, the oil that lubricates those shafts goes into the shafts and into the exhaust side of the turbo and burns up and goes out that way. That is a very, very common fault on these turbos, and these turbos on this car has about 120,000 miles. So it stands to believe that that is quite a real possibility, is that the turbos are bad. So let's take a look and see what 17T turbos I had procured for this E30 N54, and we are going to replace them. All right, these are the new 17T turbos. This is the very popular turbos that you can see that you can get on eBay for about $1,000 to about $1,100 for the pair. I got to do a comparison of the old ones to the new ones. These are the new. Looks like it's got some really nice stamping there to show serial numbers and model numbers and things like that. It is a direct bolt-on the N54. Obviously, this is designed for the N54. Everything is brand new about this. It even comes with some seals and gaskets and things, which I really don't need, but I'm going to use anyway because, I mean, I already replaced all this stuff in a couple of previous episodes. But overall, the mouth of the intake is larger than its predecessor, so it can handle more power. I believe it can handle up to 700 horsepower, 700 horsepower range. We're not going to be using it to that level. We're only going to be hitting it to 400 horsepower range, but these will be perfect for anywhere between 10 and even up to 25 PSI, as 0 to 60 has done and demonstrated that on his E92. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. I'm really looking forward to putting these things on. Now what we need to do is get the E31 out of here, get the E30 up there, make sure my daughter is not in the crossfires, and start removing the turbos from the E30 N54. Now, let's move this thing. Now we got the car up on the lift and we can start taking a look at the damage. Now, not damage, no damage, but we do need to take a look and see what parts have worn out or what has happened to the car. I put about 30 miles on them, and that's when I was starting to record some of my finale footage videos, and that's when I started to see the blue smoke. So I want to address this, but I do have a little bit of wear and tear on the engine and my drivetrain and everything like that. So it's kind of like grading to see how I did in terms of the build and integration. So I'm pretty excited to see how things turn out and what needs to be fixed or replaced with a little bit of wear. That's good because it gives my customer a more quality vehicle, having had a little bit of miles put on still under my watch. I get to take a look and see what I did wrong, what I can improve on, fix it before it actually gets delivered, kind of like quality testing. So, you know, in a couple minutes here, just going through some of this stuff, the sway bar seems to have worked really well. No issues with the coilovers. Proximity of the sway bar looks good. I do see a little bit of shiny stuff here, which suggests that there is a leak. And it looks like I do have a leak here, probably some power steering fluid, or looks like oil, but I don't see anywhere else oil would be coming from. I do see that there might be some power steering leak. So I might just have to tighten something up. Oh, there you go, you can see it right there. So I do have a power steering leak. Motor mount on the driver's side looks good. Motor mount on the passenger side. Whoa, that does not look good. Looks like it got heat soaked. Wow, okay, geez. All right, so we have to do something about that. Definitely requires a replacement of the part for sure, but geez Louise. Yeah, I need to cover this with some sort of a heat shrink, not heat shrink, but like a heat protective plate. Yeah, gotta replace that. The motor mount bracket is held up really good. I'll have to check the welds on it, but this bracket looks really good. Anything else? Everything else looks pretty good. No other leaks going on. Certainly need to take a look at the exhaust to make sure there were no leaks on the exhaust. So far it looks pretty good. Right. The hanger. There's my hanger. Looks pretty good. Good. How about the drivers, the motor mounts? Motor mounts themselves look good. Quibo looks good up there. Wiring looks good. Control arms. Steering column looks good. Fuel pressure regulator. Everything looks good. I don't see any leaks there. So far, so good. Rear end. Looks good. Diff definitely works. Any leaks coming from the diff? Nope. Nope, no leaks. Mount looks good. All right. All right, so I think that there's a couple things I can improve on when I remove the turbos, and I might even see more things when I remove them. But for now, I'm actually pretty happy with the way that everything worked. I mean, if the worst thing that's gonna happen is that I'm gonna have to replace a motor mount because it got too hot, well, that's something I can certainly prevent and fix and add a heat shield to prevent that from happening again. Let's see how the paint turn out here in the front. Got some bugs in the front. I did scrape the bottom, which did really worry me. I thought I was gonna be getting some cracks in the paint, but no, actually nothing. I mean, crack down here, but yeah, I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy. All right, let's start draining fluids and removing the turbos. Subframe is removed. Looking up, I have the engine being maintained in its exact position through this blue bar here, this standoff. As you can see, the turbos are quite easily accessible. We need to remove the exhaust downpipes, then remove the cooling pump, and that gets us access to basically all the bolts that we need. Oh, and the intake as well. We need to remove the charge air intake, and I think that everything else should be relatively easy to remove. We'll just drop everything else down. So now let's take and start removing let's remove the engine bracket, the cooling stuff, and the headers and see where everything fits from here on out. Compared to the new one, I mean, look at the mouth size, look at the turbine size. It's a lot bigger. The diameter, I believe, is 45 millimeters. Yeah, so the internal diameter of this guy is 38, and this one is, let's see if I can get it better, 44. Right, 43, 44. So it's a lot bigger, so it's going to allow more air to flow through, which is always better. So it's going to be able to handle more power. It's brand new, so it's reliable. I'm really hoping that these actually make the cut. I will notice one big thing here to talk about is that these are heavier. These are a lot heavier than these, and why is that? And I believe it's because the headers themselves. The actual manifolds are cast iron or steel. These are more of like a formed piece, and overall they're a lot lighter. So yeah, I'm assuming that this is being one big formed piece. Well, this kind of is, but it's also brazed and formed and then stamped. So this is actually a lot lighter than this guy. So I mean, I'm really excited to get these things on. So let's do an exchange of the tubings. And then we can just start installing, and installation is reverse of the removal. Out with the old, in with the new. New turbos are installed and they look pretty. So now that the turbos are installed, I do need to get the coolant pump installed as well. And of course, the charge air pipes. So once the coolant pump is installed, the charge air pipes can go in. Then it's really just a matter of getting the mechanical stuff back on, like the exhaust downpipes and the bracket and, you know, basically the subframe. And then we're basically ready to go. All right, the entire subframe is back in. Now, before I put on the new Garagistic motor mounts, these are 88 poly bushings, I need to do something about the passenger side heating issue. As you can see, this has gotten quite deformed, and that is due to the excessive heat on the turbos and the downpipes being so close to that mount. Now, how to fix that? Well, BMW actually knew about this already with their rubber mount, so they put a heat shield around the mount to prevent the mount from getting too hot. And that's exactly what I'd like to do here. So I'm going to take some old E31 muffler cover, which is basically an aluminum heat shield from the mufflers. I'm going to shape it to size, cut a hole in it, put it underneath the bracket, but above the mount, and it's going to curve over all sides of the mount to help prevent that heat from getting soaked into this and melting the 88 poly. So let's make this guy, let's fit it in, we'll put the new 88 poly bushings in the motor mount locations, and then we'll set it back down on its own weight. So the heat shield is done. I used a reflective tape around the entire perimeter of it because when you cut it, there actually is like a sandwiched material inside of these two aluminum pieces. And anyway, I wanted to make sure that I used like a nice heat reflective tape around it to make sure that it didn't like disintegrate over time. But this is basically how this is gonna end up going in, just like this. It's gonna go in and go through that hole there, and this is going to shield from the passenger side motor mount. I think this will be very, very effective. I think it'll actually help with longevity, and I'm really excited to test it out. So when the new mounts come in, we'll throw them in, put the car down on the ground, and start filling back up with fluid. Okay, now heat shield is installed. New mounts have also been installed. Power steering installed. Basically, this car is ready to be put on the ground and start filling with fluids. So let's do that now. There's a little bit of smoke that you can see here. That's just the original smoke burning off of the turbos. It smells really good, doesn't smell like oil. That's the type of smoke you want on a first start with a new exhaust, and that is perfectly normal. It does have a bit of a whining sound, and the whining sound is coming from the power steering, so we need to cycle through power steering. And we added coolant, but we need to add some more as well. You can see some more of the smoke over there. So far, everything seems to be starting up just like normal. And we just need to continue to cycle through this, get it up to operating temperature, and continue to fill with coolant and power steering fluid as we go through. Watch, listen. That's all that is. All right, I got the car parked outside. The turbos were smoking a little bit, but that was just from the oils during the manufacturing process, and that is now gone. I filled up with power steering fluid. I filled up with coolant. Oil is good at 6.5 liters, and let's give it a start and, wait a little bit. Let's wait a little bit and, see if this thing really smokes. Now we gotta wait until the engine gets up to temperature. We'll do the same exact test. We'll rev it just a little bit, and then we'll just kind of gun it a little bit, and then we'll see if there's like a puff of smoke that comes out the rear. Turbos look good. They work well. They work good. Okay. Very good. All right, so let's be honest about what we've done so far. Essentially, we checked compression. We knew compression was good. We replaced the PCV valve, and we know that that was also good. Or it was actually good, but we replaced it anyway with a VVT one, an upgraded version. And then we also did the big deed of replacing turbos. And replacing turbos on a swapped car like this is relatively difficult, and but it was worth it. I think we got some really good turbos on there for some really good power output. So I'm really looking forward to exercising that a little bit more. But I will tell you this, that the smoke is still there slightly, and I'm thinking that might be because of the lack of catalytic converters. This car doesn't have cat, basically just goes straight out. And I'm thinking that might be a big part of it. Not to mention, the downpipes had a lot of soot on them when I removed them. So I'm thinking that might also be the soot that's kind of burning up and going away too. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on this. But I do think that the smoke has been significantly decreased as a result of replacing the turbos. And we also have a design now that's going to end up being able to withstand up to 450, 500 wheel horsepower, which is pretty cool too. Those old turbos had 120,000 miles on them, and they were bad. But we did go for a little bit of driving. We did a little driving. We did some standstills. We did some befores and afters. So we were able to kind of prove that, yeah, their smoke was still there a little bit, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. And we know we have healthy turbos in there. So I think that's just about it, I think, for this episode. If you guys want to see some more driving videos, then just hang out a little longer. I'm going to take this guy out on the road. We're going to be doing some really cool, harder drives. And we're going to be doing some more interesting stuff in the finale video that's coming out very, very soon. Now that we've taken care of this item and addressed most of the problems here on this car, we're going to be doing some pretty cool stuff in terms of, just driving, just fun driving stuff. And that's really what this is all about, is just driving, right? Enjoy the car, enjoy the swap. You built it, enjoy it, right? That's what I want to do, and that's what I plan on doing with this guy in the finale video. Hope you guys tune in. Hope you enjoy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you learned something. And if you have any advice to give me, please leave it. I love hearing about updates from my customers and my friends and my followers and subscribers. So thank you very much. My name is Frank Macaluso from Garageholic, and I am out of here. Take it easy. Later.